Hi, and welcome back to Video Evidence presented by Crime Fiction Lover. In today's video, we're going to talk about Caller Unknown, the new conspiracy thriller by Oliver Johnson. I'm going to read the review of the book from our website by Rough Justice. Then I'm going to read a few pages from early in the novel to give you a taste of what it's like. But first, a little background. Oliver is actually a veteran British author and has spent years working as a commissioning editor with major UK publishers. However, his name will be new to crime fiction readers. In the past, he's written fantasy novels and even co-published a role-playing game. Now he's changed tack and is tackling thriller territory. When I first came across Caller Unknown earlier this year, I was immediately intrigued. The concept is this: what if people could be programmed so that one little phrase or utterance turned them into someone else, someone potentially very violent? It immediately reminded me of the 1970s movie Telephone with Charles Bronson and Donald Pleasence, where one phone call activates sleeper agents who cause havoc across America. Caller Unknown taps into the paranoia such ideas evoke. I love the way the cover harks back to the thrillers of the 70s and 80s with its high contrast typeface. The designers have even made the edges of the cover look like worn laminate, peeling away from an old book. It tells us we're going back in time a bit, which we are. So let's move on to our review of Caller Unknown. As well as being able to listen to it here, you'll find it on our website where you can read it. This book was reviewed by Rough Justice. This debut thriller by a renowned fiction editor could not be more timely. Conspiracy theories have always been with us, but the internet has amplified them to the extent that they are more widely discussed and believed than ever. The age of mass surveillance, COVID lockdowns, tech oligarchs, and the Epstein files have all contributed to a fertile breeding ground for these ideas. They have also, in times past, been a staple of crime fiction. James Grady's 6 Days of the Condor and Richard Condon's The Manchurian Candidate were both adapted as films featuring Hollywood stars. Caller Unknown might just resurrect this dormant subgenre. The story begins dramatically with the discovery of 7 children unconscious by a road in Maine. Who are they? Dressed almost identically, they carry no personal information. Where have they come from? None of them matches the description of any missing child. What has happened to them? The children all have no memories. They are not even sure of their own names, and months of therapy doesn't result in any breakthroughs. Reluctantly, the decision is made to foster the children across the country, and Caller Unknown follows the story of one of the young boys, Ed, as he begins his new life. Whatever Ed's early life experiences were, they have left him traumatized and unprepared for a normal life. Fostered in Maine with the Constance family, he struggles to connect with either his family or his schoolmates, is largely withdrawn and placid, but when provoked, becomes frighteningly violent. But Ed is clever and resourceful, able to recognize his challenges and avoid the triggers which make him aggressive, and makes his way through adolescence. Ed's first real connection with another person comes on a family holiday to the Maine countryside. Jim Dove only returned from his tour in Vietnam a few years ago and has taken over his father's bait and tackle shop. Ed and Jim seem to recognize something of themselves in each other. It's a very male friendship, bonding over the natural joys of an outdoor life and an understanding that each has been hurt, though both are happy not to speak of it. It's a touching portrayal, sensitively drawn, and succeeds as much by what is not shown as what is. It is great writing and representative of the novel as a whole. Caller Unknown is a long book, and much of it is taken up with setting the stage, creating atmosphere and tension, and the patient building of characters. It runs counter to the prevailing trend of short, breathless chapters and is all the better for it. In this sense, comparisons to early Stephen King and Robert McCammon make sense. Despite its length, Caller Unknown never drifts, and I never found myself impatient for the next action sequence. The first sign that whatever happened to Ed as a child is not over occurs on his first day at university. Enrolled at Northeastern to study political science, he is approached by a stranger who he belatedly recognizes as one of the other 6 children. David was a cruel child then, and age hasn't mellowed him. With David quoting scripture, Ed can feel his self-control slipping away and his free will vanishing. The words seem to put him into a trance, and only the inadvertent intervention of dorm security saves him. The news that another of the 7, again seemingly not themselves, has committed a terrorist atrocity brings home the perilous nature of Ed's situation, and gradually the realization dawns that his whole life is part of a vast conspiracy, decades in the planning. I won't ruin your enjoyment of the book by getting too deeply into it, except to say the usual suspect of paranoid thrillers, communism, has been replaced by a more Western and equally topical evil. Caller Unknown continues through Ed's life from college to work and eventually marriage, and takes in the continental United States before returning to the vast Maine woods for a thrilling climax. There is a revelation in the final lines, which I can only believe suggests a sequel. I don't know how I feel about that. I thought Ed's story was over, so I feel slightly deceived. However, Caller Unknown is such a good book that I will be first in line for Oliver Johnson's next novel, for sure. And Rough Justice gave Caller Unknown a CFL rating of 4 stars. This is a reading from Chapter 1. That last evening at Erickson's lot it was warm, and the late June sun was still falling westwards at 7:30 p.m. Outside the cabin nothing stirred. All that existed was the falling light and the endless trees of the forest. The 7 children waited in their cots, 4 on one side and 3 on the other, under the sloping roof of the loft. At the far end, away from the solitary sealed window, 2 of the cast-iron beds had been pulled close to one another in the shadows. In one lay a boy, in the other a girl. He was Ed, she Shannon. Like the other 5 children, both were 9 years old and skeletally thin. Ed and Shannon held hands across the space. In their free hands they clutched the single personal possession they had been permitted in all the years at this place. His was a one-eyed teddy bear, hers a black nylon jacket with a yellow cartoon of a dog on the back dressed in a pilot's outfit. They had decided this creature must be called Snoopy because of the scrawled loopy signature below the cartoon. The jacket was much creased by age and overhandling. For the last 2 hours there had been loud noises in the cabin's concrete basement 2 floors down. The children knew what this meant. Mrs. Froome was positioning the 7 wooden chairs with their leather restraints, the trays of drugs, the cine equipment, and the loudspeakers for the evening lesson. As if in confirmation, the wooden stairs creaked. "The witch is coming," Shannon whispered, and instantly closed her eyes. It was forbidden to look on Mrs. Froome until she permitted it. 3 times now, in the years they'd been reading the Bible, they'd come to the place in the commandments where it said, "Thou shalt not suffer the witch to live." Ed and Shannon had wished their captor's end with the fervent devotion only 9-year-olds possess. But their wishing hadn't been enough, for here she was again, ready to take them to the basement. Unlike the others, Ed kept looking through battered eyelids long enough to see the woman's head rise up the stairwell, her auburn hair flared in the shaft of the evening sun from the window. As usual, her face was fixed and expressionless. She placed a large shopping bag on the floor. "Get up," she said. The kids, all of whom had only been pretending to be asleep, sat up uncertainly. Then, as she clapped her hands, got out of bed. They stood on the bare boards, hair and pajamas disheveled, staring at their feet. One or two of them shivered, though it wasn't cold. One of the shiverers began to snot. She was a thin, waif-like girl with a kidney-shaped birthmark on her right cheek. "Stop sniveling, Katrine," Mrs. Froome snapped, and Katrine's sobbing ended with a strange, strangled hiccup. Mrs. Froome bent and took some things from the bag and placed them on the table under the window. "Come here," she said. The kids shuffled forward obediently. Mrs. Froome placed 7 bags on the table. They were square and blue with white shoulder straps. The sides had a globe decal in the same colors, a white line of longitude through the poles, and curved lines of latitude radiating out from the central logo text, all against the background blue. The logo text, Pan Am, was stenciled across the globe. The kids could read. They had been through the Bible many times from infanthood, but Pan Am was unfamiliar. Unfamiliar too was the globe. They, from their limited observations from this mountaintop, which they had never left, believed the earth was flat. Neither did they know what an airline or airliner was, though they had seen the contrails of planes high above in the blue summer sky. They had thought them to be God's chalk marks on the blue board of heaven. So that's it from us today and our coverage of Caller Unknown by Oliver Johnson. As I said, if you want to read the review, you can head to our website and find out more information about the book. I've also placed an Amazon link in the description with this video, so you can grab a copy if you like what you've heard. Other than that, if you've enjoyed this video, please drop us a like or perhaps even subscribe. Come back to Video Evidence again soon, where we'll have more great crime fiction for you.